Sure.
What up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Strength Forward podcast. Today, we have on a special guest, another guest I met from social media. Seems like I'm meeting everyone from social media these days. His name is Glenn. He is based in the UK. He is a kettlebell and mace, sandbag, dumbbell specialist. Is that correct? Am I missing anything?
No, I mean, I would have stopped at kettlebell, but yeah, I'll take it. I'm going to stop there.
Well,
Yeah.
so I reached out to Glenn because I've been watching his content for a while, and he delivers really great content, very educational content on how to move the body effectively, especially with kettlebells, how to train efficiently, all the stuff. I've gleaned a lot of wisdom just from watching this stuff, so I think you guys will get a lot just listening to this. But I won't talk anymore. Glenn, I'd love for you to tell us just a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into this whole thing, and your passion for it, as much or as little as you'd like.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for inviting me on. It's always a pleasure to speak to someone else and be connected to other people. Social media is a great connector, right? I speak to guys and girls all around the world because of social media. And if not for that, I would be just a man on an island in a small cubicle in London somewhere. So yeah, thanks a lot for having me on, man.
Yeah, man, 100%.
And look, I've been training for a long time, for about as long as I can remember, really, because of my family culture growing up. My dad to this day wakes up at 5-ish in the morning and gets after it with kettlebells, 3-4 days a week, and then we'll hammer out 50 to 75 kilometers on his bike over the weekend. So he's a fitness fanatic, despite the fact that he's a 68, 69-year-old dentist. It's not his job to be fit. And my mum was also someone who always pursued health and fitness as well, whether nutritionally, who always gave us amazing food growing up and had a really incredible way to make us all intuitive eaters without meaning to. But
Yeah.
she's an incredible cook and gave us a great balance of nutrition growing up, and then also pursued her own sort of athletic endeavors, doing the London Marathon and playing tennis and all that sort of stuff. So for about as long as I can remember, it was part of our lives. I got 2 younger brothers, and so growing up in a home that was very masculine meant that we did martial arts and we played sports at school and we did everything that we could turn our hands to. We did,
I love that.
and it also meant that you went and learned martial arts technique and then practiced it on your brothers later that evening. So whether they liked that or not was maybe they can wait to do their own podcast to tell you whether or not they like that. But that was the house we grew up in. So health, fitness, strength training, it was just par for the course. It wasn't by any means how you were defined or measured. It was just part of what made a healthy person. You must have physical things that you're pursuing, academic things that you're pursuing, spiritual things that you're pursuing, social and sociological things that you're pursuing. So I'm very fortunate that I come from a home that was filled with love, filled with great communication, filled with great nutrition, filled with great examples from my parents of how, like I said, my mum was a tenured teacher, my dad's a dentist, but they both had things that they worked towards in their physical world as well.
Yeah.
And I saw how it connected them to communities, gave them friendships, gave them things to strive towards. And it wasn't that they sat us down and said, now listen, you must pursue these things it was just an example that was silently given to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all inevitably pursued, I say we, me and my brothers, just found our own way to pursuing or including exercise in our lives. I've made up a whole personality out of it. But my brothers are much more normal in their relationship to exercise. They do it a bit, they pursue a bit of running, they do a bit of jiu-jitsu, a little bit of lifting here and there, but I mean, it's my whole world, my whole life. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it, dude. I like that you said they didn't force it on you. It was just an example, because I think that's a really important delineation to make. Because growing up for me, it was very similar. Where my parents were they were in the bodybuilding era, so they were just huge with the bodybuilding, but with nutrition and working out and the whole thing. But people growing up thought that it was forced on me, and that's why I loved it. but it really wasn't. It was like I remember eating ice cream as a kid, and it wasn't like, oh, I don't eat ice cream. Like we would go and do stuff, but it like naturally just became a part of me, and I was like, oh man, like I just really enjoy this, and it grew into it. So I think it's cool that you mentioned that. Um, so what sports did you play growing up? You mentioned like martial arts, and you kind of just did everything.
Yeah,
Was there one that in
yeah, I was
particular?
really fortunate with my first school. My first school had like, it's not that common in the UK, and I always look at the US and the culture around sport and exercise as being so many years ahead of where it is in the UK. So my school was great because we had astroturf pitches and fields. So where we played everything from like standard hockey on the astroturf to rugby, cricket, football. Is UK soccer,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
football, and then a little bit of gymnastics here and there, a little bit of basketball. Much later in my like high school, I played basketball competitively for my school, and then sports days where I was like the thrower. I wasn't great at long distance races, but if something needed to be thrown, it was my event. It was discus, shot put, javelin. I was doing those sorts of things.
Really?
So like my sort of 4 to 12-year-old school experience was kind of trying everything out, and
Hmm.
sometimes that meant on cross country day that I would go hide in a bush until people came running around, and I would rejoin them because I just hated it. But when it came to basketball or rugby or things like that, it was like, oh great, here's an opportunity for me to get rid of my aggression, which was kind of what got me into those sorts of sports anyway, was because I had a bit of aggression in me and I needed somewhere constructive to put it.
Yeah.
And that was, if you don't know rugby particularly well, it's American football without the pads. It's like the simplest, very different rule structure, but a simple way to kind of
Yeah.
make an audience aware of what it is. It's American football without the pads. Is pretty close. And it was a great place for me to tip out my aggression. Um,
Dude,
you
rugby
know,
seems intense.
oh yeah,
Rugby, I've never played it. I've watched it. I had some friends who were from South Africa. When I lived back in Charlotte, they're from South Africa. And so they were really big with playing rugby. So I went and watched. It's like, dude, this looks amazing.
that's
Yeah,
where my whole
really.
family's from. Both my parents are South African.
Oh, really? What part of South Africa?
They're both from Johannesburg.
Nice. Okay, so
So
so I went to Cape Town, and man, Cape Town was crazy beautiful.
yeah, that's where like all my dad's family that stayed in South Africa have moved to Cape Town, or most, not all. And all my mom's side left South Africa and moved to Australia. So I've got family in Sydney and in Cape Town, Johannesburg sort of areas.
Oh
And
wow, yeah,
so
you're
yeah, I'm very fortunate. Very fortunate that I get to know those places like extensions of my home because I've been fortunate to travel quite a bit.
dude, that's so cool. Yeah, rugby seems really like it would be a really fun sport to get into. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Isn't it true that like there are less concussions in rugby than actual football? Because
Yeah, yeah, because we don't use our heads in rugby.
yeah,
You don't wear a helmet,
go
and
figure
so
if you
you
don't use your
use
head.
yeah you use your physicality in the right way. When I go to tackle someone in rugby, firstly the rule is below the waist. You've got to hit your shoulder below someone's waist.
Okay.
At least it was a rule at the time. Don't quote me on it still being the rule now. But like good technique is crucially important, especially for someone like me. I'm small. I'm not a big person, and when you're 5'9", maybe 5'10" on a good day, and about 80 kilograms if I'm heavy,
Yeah.
if you're not using good technique in rugby, you're just not going to take the person down. You're not going to tackle them.
Right.
Some of the boys in there, and it's not by weight class. So some of the boys in my team or in the opposite team might have been over 100 kilos quite comfortably. And, if they've got 40, 50 kilograms on me, it's not my strength that's tackling them. It's
Not at
technique.
all.
You can
Yeah.
tap their heels whilst they're running and they'll go down.
Yeah.
But it's a very aggressive sport, but amazingly, very, very welcoming and much less scary in terms of the overall culture than soccer or football. Like the culture around soccer is much more steeped in hooliganism. I mean, maybe 10 years ago more so than today, but there's much more aggression in the stands.
Yeah.
Whereas
Oh yeah.
rugby, all the aggression is on the field, and all the gentlemen are watching, uh, and it's a very different experience. It's
No,
great
yeah,
though.
that's interesting. Yeah, I've heard the soccer stands are absolutely insane.
Yeah, they get pretty mad. So like growing up, my dad had season tickets to Tottenham Hotspur, and we used to go, or Spurs, and we used to go to Spurs regularly. But you cannot sit, like Spurs fans cannot sit with the other fans. They
Just
are
too chaotic.
split up completely. Whereas when we would go to rugby, I would frequently, like my dad would be dressed all like a Springbok because he's South African,
Yeah.
and I would, just to rub him up the wrong way, I would dress in the gear of the other team and be surrounded in the stadium by fans from both teams, and everyone is cordial and polite and there's a degree of banter to the competition, not aggression to the competition,
I like that. No,
which was really cool.
that is really cool. So, okay, I think it's a good segue into your training background. I'm assuming, I'd love for you to tell me, but I'm assuming that that led you into your first bit of like weightlifting. Like you really wanted to train, you wanted to get stronger. Like that's the story I have in my head. So, what did that look like for you? Like, what did your training background look like in your experience
Well,
and
so I
gaining
think,
knowledge?
yeah, that story is like a perfect story arc for America, because at least in my head, my own story that I've got for you guys over the pond is use strength training to assist the sport you're doing. And there are great structures in colleges and high schools to do that, to help you with good coaches, with good gyms, with all that sort of stuff. That doesn't exist in the UK, even to today, unless you are at university. There isn't like a really embedded structure for strength and conditioning that underpins the sport. It's
Really?
very, very secondary.
Huh.
So
Like, so not
even in
even in
my,
high
my
school, like
work,
you don't have like class in high school where you go to like a weightlifting class, nothing?
no, no. So high school, yeah, high school PE, physical exercise or physical activity, or your like movement session for the day is very broad. It's very like, today we're going to play a bit of basketball, or today we're going to do it. It's never ever weightlifting. And it took until I was 17 at my high school to say, like, when we all get on the bus and go outside of school to pursue the sport we want, I would like to be taken to the gym. So I don't want to go to the field or to the pitch or to the court or whatever. Take me, and like there were four other people. I want to go to the gym. And it was, I wish, Kyle, I wish I could stand here and tell you it was like in order to pursue my athleticism. It was not. It was in order to pursue my vanity. And it was it
Yeah.
was about bodybuilding. It was about kind of looking at the Arnie wave of bodybuilding,
Yeah.
and that whole era of, I remember reading interviews with him and him talking about him as being a sculptor who got to carve his image into stone of what he wanted to look like. And I thought, wow, that's cool. I guess I could do that. And I started going to the gym, and my dad would go to the gym, but he was like a cardio guy in the gym, really. It was very old school. He'd ride the stationary bike, or he'd do a few curls and then get on the bike, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I got into the gym, and I don't know where I got the idea to pursue it like this. But what I did as a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old even in the gym was, if I saw someone with great shoulders, I'd go up to them and I'd ask them what they do for their shoulders, and I would write that down, and that would be my new shoulder program. And then the guy who was under the squat rack, I would ask him, just as a kid, 13-year-old, be like, "Excuse me, Mr. 40-year-old man, please can you show me what this barbell thing is, and how do I sit down, stand up with it safely?"
Wow.
And it was just because I was not too shy to ask that I ended up saying, you know what, that guy is shredded to bits. I wonder how he gets shredded. And then someone says, well, it's all about what you eat. And you go, oh, okay, I had never thought about food
Hmm.
because I'm 14. So okay, I'll buy my first protein bar. And those first protein bars back in the early noughties tasted like sand
Oh yeah.
covered in chocolate. They were terrible, but I got them down, and I got the protein shakes down, because if that's what the guy in the gym was doing, that's what I had to do.
Right.
And then at the same time, I started doing martial arts. And so at about 14, I did a bit of karate, and at about 17, I did a few years of sambo. And when I was In my 20s, I did about 7 years of Krav Maga. And then in my late 20s to early 30s, before my son was born, I've done 5 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then I had a couple of injuries and wanted to double down my focus on my social media, my business, my family. And I had to pick the direction I was going to go in. I still very much intend to get back on the mats. But now I'm sort of, my life is buffering. I'm loading the next phase. And when I get a bit of breathing space, I'll get back on the mats.
Yeah. So 2 things. One, first, you sound like a very dangerous human being.
No.
Years doing
all
martial
of that
arts.
just made me nicer and kinder. All of that training.
That's funny. But 2, so I want to go back to you asking questions in the gym, because I think that is something that not everyone does so naturally. Right.
Yeah.
Especially as dudes. I think it's more common with dudes, like the ego of like, oh, I'll figure it out on my own or whatever.
Right.
It's very uncommon to just be like, hey, can you help me? And especially at such a young age. So did anybody teach you that, or was that just like, it just made sense? You're like, hey, this guy's ahead of me, I'm gonna ask him.
I think that's just a function of who I am to an extent. And my middle brother was not that kid growing up. He's quite a different personality to me, especially when we were growing up. So I always almost took it upon myself as my job to show him what confidence looks like, even though I wasn't confident. But I remember walking him around the gym, and to this day, it's a story that we'll tell each other. So I know he remembers it as well as I do. That we were in the gym together as like early teenagers, and he asked me like, "How can you just go up to someone and talk to them?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I don't know. I'll show you." And a woman looked at me like a mid 40-year-old woman, and here I am as a 14-year-old boy in the gym. And I thought, if she's looked at me, she must know who I am and know my parents. That's my assumption going forward. So I marched up to her, stuck my hand out and said, "Hey, how's it going?" And we had this whole chit-chat conversation. And then as I walked away, I looked at my brother and said, "No idea who that is. Haven't got a clue." But she's going to now go back to my mum and go, "Your son is so sweet and blah, 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 whatever. And so polite. And he came up and said to her," because it doesn't have to be scary. And 99% of the time, people in the gym are like, they're friendly people. And my whole thing when I became one of the scarier looking people in a conventional gym, which I entirely attribute to my training partner, who was 6'6" and built like a brick shithouse, and he was scary. I was just stood next to him. But my whole thing was that if I saw someone doing something wrong, I am a personal trainer. I'm going to say, "Would you mind if I helped you make that work better or feel less uncomfortable, or not improve it, not tell you where you're going wrong, but can I do that?" And just by extending an olive branch like that, I made the space around me less scary and me less scary. And then that propagates. That becomes like a little drop that creates a ripple that can affect the culture of that space, even just while I'm in it. But the culture of the gym slightly shifts to being one of helping people rather than guarding your secrets. And that's such a big theme for me moving forward, as to like what I put out on social media, is that I think this guarded secrets thing, which still goes on, a banana will kill you, or this, that, very extreme opinions people have because they want to guard a secret. So let me tell you the nutritional secret about the berry that you haven't started eating yet that will melt the fat away. They're all nonsense. It's all rubbish. It's all about people trying to guard something that makes them special and require you to pay them for the information. There's no guarded secrets, in my opinion. The fundamentals have worked since the dawn of time, and the fundamentals have always been true. Eat more protein, drink more water, sleep better, do the fundamental lifts, and repeat that with progressive overload. Job done. That's your entire fitness industry in one headline.
That's it. 1000%.
Right.
Yeah,
that's everything. That's every fitness podcast, every nutritional podcast, everything distilled down to a headline, where underneath you could go subheading, "If it doesn't work for you, try something new until you find the thing that works." Under the umbrella, "Eat enough protein, drink enough water, sleep well enough, progressive overload." That's it. That's as complicated as it gets.
1,000%. Yeah. That's, I'm really glad you said that because it's so true, dude. I have so many thoughts, but the biohacking community. So I listen to a
Mm,
lot of podcasts of the biohacking community, and I think it's really great. But I've come to realize, to your point, that it it can make people feel overwhelmed and a little bit confused, where it's
yeah,
like, man, before we even focus on any of that, and there's a place for it, sure. There's a place
for
for
sure.
red light therapy and timing this and what intermittent fasting that or whatever. There's a place for it. But before we even get there, let's just do the bare minimum first. Like, just do the bare minimum. Like, just lift some weights, be consistent, progressively overload. Like, just do that. Then we'll go from there.
100%. I think people don't realize that those four things, water, protein, sleep, progressive overload, they do 95 to 99% of the job that you're trying to accomplish.
Yep.
They make you bigger, healthier, leaner, stronger, faster, live longer, improve your mental. All of that is done by those four things, done consistently, not perfectly.
Mm,
Consistently looks different in a day cycle versus a month cycle versus a 10-year cycle. There's room for error in a month cycle and a 10-year cycle. There's even room for error in a day cycle.
yep.
So you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than you have been consistently. And that fixes 95 to 99% of the issues. The biohacking thing, I think, is wonderful, but it's academic mental masturbation for most
Hmm.
people.
Yep.
It's how can we nudge our health or our gains or our recovery like 0.5% better? But people are like becoming frantic over which 0.5% therapy they pick before they do the better lifting, the better sleep, the better protein target, water, whatever. And that's the craziest thing for me. I
Yeah.
just I find that
Yeah.
mad.
100%. Yeah, that's one thing I was talking to someone recently about, like like cold therapy, taking ice baths. There's a huge there's, the research that's come out where it's like you should ice bath before you work out, not after, because it gets rid of the inflammation and you need that for the whatever. And it's like, that is such, like, that matters for an elite world class athlete who's going for the tiniest marginal percentages. That's
Right,
who that matters for. For the
right.
normal person, if you get in an ice bath, and even if you get in only for a minute and not 3 minutes, like, that's a win. You did it. Now let's progressively overload that over time. And if you want to switch
Mm-hmm.
it to before and you have the means for it, sure, do it. But don't make that like the thing of like, oh, I got to do it before, not after. It's like, just do it.
And if I don't manage that, then I'm not going to train today because I did it in the wrong order. And I feel like, you've missed the point here. You've missed the point.
No, 100%. I
Yeah.
want to go back to you in the gym and you creating a culture. I love that you said that, creating a culture of like not having the guarded secrets,
Mm.
because I've noticed that in the gym too. And quite honestly, I've struggled with that, not doing what you do, where like maybe helping someone who I could help and just, letting my guard down. Um, One, because I've always been hesitant, like, are people going to accept it? Like, am I going to be, would I be the guy that were like, okay, yeah, just, shut up, I don't really want it? Or would they be really open to it and be like, hey, thank you. Like, this is really helpful. What I kind of want you to elaborate a little bit more on that. Like, are people pretty open to it and receptive, and do they enjoy it?
I think by and large they do. It depends on a few things. Like if you come at them and go, "You're doing that wrong. It's such a waste of time." Do it like that. What are you going to be met with? You're going to be met with someone who's defensive. You're going to be met with someone who says like, "Who the fuck are you? I don't want to talk to you. Go away. I'm doing my own thing. My headphones are in. Leave me alone."
Yep.
But if you walk up to someone like, "Hi, hi," big smile on my face, apologetic posture, "Hi, sorry, hi," I've noticed that you're here all the time. Well done. Consistency is the number one thing people don't manage to tick the box on. You do it. I just wanted to give you a high five. Well done. I find when I do that exercise that I get way better improvement and less knee pain when I do it like this. That's all. Keep doing you, man. You're doing so well. And walk away. Don't even wait for the next thing. Just like shit sandwich the information, right?
Yep.
You kind of come in with, "You're doing awesome. I see you here. You might have categorized me as one of the scary ones in the gym.
Yep.
Especially when I was a bodybuilder, barbell lifter, I was the guy in the singlet with my nipples out and, swollen, whatever. So, like, I get how that looks. I get how that. I'm not completely blind to the fact that I look like a douchebag in that moment. I get it. So, like, if I come over and I'm like, hi, sorry, I know, hang on, focus, all right. If you make fun of yourself and you're smiling and whatever, but I think if that's not who you are, stay in your lane, don't do it. That's just is who I am. And, like, I've been brought up by a mum who is a pathological caregiver, and I'm her first child. So I got a bunch of that, and I want to look after people and make sure that my role as a coach, as a personal trainer, is effectively looking after people. And so when I see someone in the gym, or when I haven't been to a commercial gym for years, but when I would see someone that was potentially going to really hurt themselves, or scarier, someone else near them, I couldn't help myself but go like, let me try and help this person. And I only know the better or the improved ways to help someone in a gym because I've done it wrong a bunch of times and gone in there like, oh my God, what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And then they give you one of those.
Yeah.
So I think if you go with like best intention, good body language, a compliment first, maybe shake hands, exchange a name, and go like, by the way, I'm a trainer. I don't work here and I'm not interested in your business. I'm fully booked. I've just noticed. Da, 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 da. I'm going to leave you to it. Keep doing it. Well done. And leave.
Yeah.
Like, you've not asked for any of their time. You've tried to improve something that they're doing. And all you've done is sort of apologize your way into the conversation and thank your way out of the conversation. It's hard. You need some roid ragey weirdo to get a really negative response from that. Yeah. Which I've had, by the way. I've had those too.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, plenty. Look, I'm 39 years old. I've been in gyms since I was 15. I've been in gyms in some really dodgy areas, and yeah. I've been around some very dodgy people in those very dodgy gyms. And if you misstep even a tiny bit around someone who is just inherently a dangerous person that is also on steroids, you can find yourself in a situation that you didn't mean to be in. Right. So it's understanding,
No, that's so cool. That's actually really helpful. That's a very good practical thing to use. Because to your point, and then I want to ask you about training, but to your point, everyone in the gym, everyone there is usually really friendly, and most people are nervous and they're looking around at other people looking at them, and they're thinking, well, I don't want to look stupid and this, that. Like, I find that to be so common, unless it's someone like you or I, where it's like we're really experienced and like I could navigate through a gym in an instant and like no hesitations, put a workout to get like no problems. Unless you're one of those people, most people are like kind of intimidated. And so
of course.
they want to feel invited. They want to feel, less scary in this place where they're, trying to get their health together and they're dealing with all these things in their head. So like, I think it's really cool that you mentioned that. And I think it's important. That's something actually I want to challenge myself to, is creating a better environment when I'm there. You've inspired that.
Yeah, I mean, if you know that, you come across as a really kind, nice person. You're a big smiley face. And you, like you said, you're an experienced person in the gym. If it is natural to you to go like, just do that. In England, it's classic. You get a lot of this. And that's really welcoming. You get a lot of that. So before you even get across the gym to go like, hey man, I see you. That's very, as we would say here, that's very American in your kind of energy. It's like, what's up, bro? It doesn't need to be that. Even if you just go like, hey, I see you. That's it. You've already created that ripple of like, there is a community here that notices you, that recognizes the hard work and consistency you're putting in. And what I'm going to give you to recognize that is one of these. That's it. That's all you have to do. That's it. Yeah. And you've made that person's day. I promise you have. So it's easy to do. And imagine if every person that listens to this podcast goes like, I'm just going to do the up nod and give someone a thumbs up. That's it. I used to, when I had like normal jobs before I did what I do now. And when I would be walking to the office, every single day I would make sure I would compliment a stranger. Because you do it in your head. You'll notice someone and go like, oh, cool jeans or cool shoes. She always looks so beautiful, or whatever. Like that. If I don't know, maybe not everyone does that, but in my head, that's like an inner monologue. So I used to think, well, why am I keeping that to myself? I'm going to ask nothing from them as they walk past me. I'm just going to go, awesome shoes, man, and keep walking. Or like, there was a woman that used to walk past me on the way to the tube. I was going to say tube, but in America, it's the underground train, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she would walk past me as I was making my way down to the tube every single day, and she always looked unhappy. She was this very beautiful but quite overweight woman, and I thought she always looked great. She always had great turned out clothes, and she just looked like she cared about what she looked like. And so as often as I saw her, I would pay her a compliment, and every single time she would go from looking depressed about her day to looking like open to her day. You know, like she switched her face immediately from like being very isolated and stuck to like, oh, thanks. And then I didn't stop. I didn't even stop walking. I didn't break my stride because I didn't pay the compliment for the response I would get. It was just for her to have. And I thought, like, if that's something you can do just as easy charity, like it costs you nothing, but it's easy charity, right?
Wow, that's really awesome, man. That's really inspiring. Wow.
And it feels awkward. It feels awkward to stop someone and go like, I don't know this person. You look great. Or I noticed those shoes. They look cool. Or like, cool back, whatever. It can feel awkward, but they don't think it feels awkward. And they don't know it feels awkward to you. And it can change their day.
That's awesome. Hold on, I'm looking at something. Okay, so with your training background,
Yeah.
I definitely want to move into your work with kettlebells, but what was your work with barbells? How long did you work with barbells? Like your bodybuilding phase, and did you do any Olympic lifting or powerlift, like that traditional stuff too, or was it more? Was it that with the aesthetics? Like, what did that background look like?
So like when I started training, there was no such thing as power bodybuilding yet. You know, that's kind of become a term that's been defined over the last 10 years or so. What I ended up doing, there wasn't a great selection of gyms either. It was like very commercial gyms. It was Virgin Actives or David Lloyd's. It wasn't somewhere with specialist equipment or anything like that. So I basically ended up bodybuilding for most of my teenage years into university, which took me to about 21, 22. And I played with barbells a little bit here and there through the main powerlifting lifts. I would squat, bench press, squat, dead press. And I kind of got into that a little bit, but it took me until my early to mid 20s, I'd say like 22, 23, I started understanding like body weight to strength ratios and trying to increase my strength disproportionately to my body weight. So I didn't want to watch my body weight climb to 100 kilos and my strength climb with it. I wanted to stay about 80 kilos, but watch my strength go up because I've gone through phases of trying to get big, and it's just not what my body wants to do. I'm the size I am. I could really force feed myself bigger, but my lived experience day to day, minute to minute is horrible when I do that. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I found powerlifting became a much more interesting thing to add in to my training, and started I kind of naturally found myself doing power building or power bodybuilding, whatever they call it, because it satisfied my desire to be really strong, but also aesthetic as well. Yeah. And I started working in this place in London where I was surrounded by peers that were all doing bodybuilding shows. And I thought, well, I've never done this, and I've never been forced as a result to understand nutrition through the lens of bodybuilding, so I could understand fat loss down to that kind of an extreme. Right. So I got into that world for a few years, and I did a stage show, and I did posing lessons, and I think that was actually a massive value add to understanding my body in quite an important way. Because it, again, like if you said to Joe Bloggs, can you tense your right lat or your rear left delt, or can you tense your right quad but not your hamstring or your glutes, or can you have that sort of muscular control around your body? Because if you can then bodybuild much, much more precisely and much safer, because you can attack a muscle at a time, rather than just using a weight to do the job. You can use mind to muscle connection to do the job and that sort of stuff. So I got really into that. But very quickly realized, I remember a coach, posing coach, walking around me as I was in his gym, and I was trying to hit all the poses and whatever. and he was pinching at my midsection like this, going, "Oh, you're really quite fat, you know." And I think I was about 9% body fat at the time. He goes, "I don't know, man. You've got like 8 weeks away from stage. You're still up around 8, 9, 10 body fat percentage." I thought, I don't give a shit about this. I don't. I love watching the sport. I still, to this day, like when C-Bum gets on stage, I want to watch. I love the men's classic. I love the 2-on-2. I love the open. I think it's great. I think it's crazy level pageantry. I don't really think it's a sport. I think it is a pageant. But I didn't care. I wanted to move well, feel strong as an ox in every direction, and not feel like every detail of my physique and body was the important thing. It was the joy in the process, not the hardship in the lack of eating. So as a result of that one experience, I'd always included things like kettlebells in my training, even when they didn't really exist in the UK. I would go and find them because it just intuitively, it felt like, oh, I can move freely with this thing. Whereas, as you'll know from using barbells, we must move out the way of the barbell. There's no other rule there. You can't move the barbell closer. You have to get your knees out the way of it, or you have to get your elbows through and under it, or whatever. Whereas a kettlebell can be adaptive to you. It means that if you've got a bum shoulder on the left-hand side, you can move slightly differently on that side rather than forcing yourself into the same symmetry when we're not symmetrical beings. So I always included those things. And when I started moving away from bodybuilding, I got much more into powerlifting and started trying to hit 3.5 times body weight on my two major lifts, which was my squat and deadlift. I was always a terrible bencher, so I could never get anywhere close to 2 times body weight. But I tried to hit my big 3 lifts. But then started to find that my body would really hurt between sessions because I'm, again, lifetime natural. So I never used anything to help me recover outside of protein and creatine.
Same.
And I just noticed my elbows, my shoulders, my knees, my back, everything started to ache, and I became quite fragile as I moved through the world. Like, because you'd tweak your back doing a heavy squat, and then you'd have to go somewhere that evening, and you'd be like, I just feel really fragile or whatever. So then I started getting away from that, and it was 2019 in 2018 I started doing a master's, which introduced me much more strongly into Olympic lifting. But I tore my shoulder doing heavy hand cleans and things like that because I'm not great at that sort of position. And so I tore my shoulder because I had developed myself to being stronger than my technique was for the Ollie lift, so I could pull more than I could catch.
Got it.
So I ended up, hand cleaning way over what I should have done per my technique. And then when it came to rehabbing myself, I found clubs because clubs were a great way to rehab my shoulder. And then COVID happened and I just doubled down. I was like, right, never going back to a gym. I've got the kettlebells that I already own because I was a trainer already. So I think I owned about 8 kettlebells. And I had like a couple dummy clubs. I actually have this one, which there's a company in Germany here called Heroic Sport. And they make a handle which you get a bottle and you screw this onto the bottle and then you've got a 1 kilogram club.
Nice.
It's brilliant. So I had this and it rehabbed my shoulder. I started feeling stronger, more mobile, not necessarily more flexible, but stronger into bigger end ranges. So then I just doubled down. I ended up loving how I felt when I trained and loving the skill acquisition because it kind of felt similar to a martial art to me.
No, I've noticed too, like even for myself, to your point of when you're doing the big lifts, the squat, the dead, the bench, or any form of pressing, man, it's effective. It's so effective, and I am a believer in it. But I've noticed I have to add in all the work that you're mentioning as like almost like I go harder on that than I do the main lifts. Like I'll hit my percentages every now and then, maybe max out. But I really enjoy the dumbbell kettlebell work, accessory work, like the single leg, the unilateral, the kettlebell swings, the snatches, things like that. You just feel so athletic. You feel so healthy. You feel
Yeah, yeah,
strong,
yeah.
and it is way less intimidating for people than like, oh, I'm going to use this barbell and I got to figure out how it's far less intimidating. Um,
Right.
I've just I've seen it to be really successful for the general population
Hmm.
for sure, right?
Plus, it
Um,
condenses workouts. Instead of going bro splits, which means if I don't hit 5 days a week, I'm leaving a muscle group out. You can kind of train in this way that every day is a full body day. You're never training to failure or complete fatigue, but you're always engaging your nervous system, your balance, your coordination, your musculature, your endurance. That's all happening within like a 30-minute session, let's say, and you can do
yeah.
it all.
Yeah, so what does your training look like now? Like give me an example of like how you split up your week and what that process looks like.
So for the last 8 months, I've been on one program. I take every 3 months, I take about 2 weeks off the program to deload and do other things. But it's the program that my community do. It's called the Razor, named after Occam's razor. Which,
Yeah.
if you don't know Occam's razor, it's the simplest answer is often the correct one. And the example that people often give is if you hear hoof prints, or hoof steps, you think horses, not zebras. Like so with that in mind, it's the functional fundamentals that make the biggest impact. It's a double kettlebell front squat, not some fancy figure of eight to snatch back line, right? It's it's double kettlebell clean and press. It's the fundamentals with progressive overload, always leaving 2 reps in reserve, but always aiming to increase by 1 rep every week.
Okay, I like
That
that.
is the structure of that program. So my training is I follow my own program that all the other people follow as well, called the Razor. I do anywhere between 4 and 6 workouts a week, depending on the busyness of my week. If you left me to my own devices, all my workouts would be about an hour and 45 minutes long because now that I'm old, I have to warm up for ages before I hit my top lifts. But effectively, it's like I focus on one. I guess it's similar to a bro split in some ways, in that I have a more leg oriented day. I have a vertical press day. I have a
Mhm.
vertical pull day. There, I have like a horizontal press or a bench press kind of day. But then there's also days that are devoted to rotation, like windmills, Turkish get ups, bent presses, maces, clubs. And there's a day that is devoted to grinds, whether it is like sandbag lifts and hoists,
Oh yeah.
farmers carries, long duration hangs, all that sort of stuff. So, but look, I've got uh, another business as a personal trainer, so the stuff I do online is separate. 2 kids and a household, so sometimes none of that is possible.
Hmm.
And sometimes what that means is I set the timer on my clock up there. I got 20 minutes, and I run an EMOM for 20 minutes of like a sandbag squat into a snatch into a heavy 360 or something like that with a mace. So I do have a program I follow, but I have to realize that life happens and I
Hmm.
have to be adaptable and flexible to what comes my way. And so I have what I call my penthouse plan and my basement plan. My penthouse plan is 5 days this week. I'm going to hit the razor. I'm going to do the leg, pull, push, twist, and elite day if I can. And if that doesn't go right, that's the penthouse plan. Then I switch to the basement plan, which is the other program that I run, which is called Quick Steel. And the workouts are anywhere between 10 and 20-ish minutes long. You grab a couple of implements, whether it's just the kettlebell or just the sandbag, just the mace, or the combination of them, and you get after that program. So
Yeah,
that
you can
is
go.
much more muscular endurance. But even in that, if I know that my overall goal is to increase my shoulder strength, I'm going to start that EMOM with kind of strength work for my shoulder and taper out to volume and endurance.
Yeah, no, dude, that's I've had
What do
plenty of
you
those
What do you
days.
tend to do? How do you structure your training?
Well, very similar. So I'm still. I say this hesitantly because my mindset's shifted like literally over the past week, but I'm still wanting to compete in CrossFit. So that's my biggest background is I've competed
Okay,
in CrossFit.
nice,
Did that for years. I think that's why I'm still in love with the barbell. I just would love just
nice.
I like snatching and cleaning, doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Mine's very similar, where it's like a Monday is a lower. right? So, but it's like I start with the power work, which would be like
Right.
cleans with some sort of plyometric. Then I go into like your squatting, and then I'll do a bunch of accessory afterwards, and then maybe some conditioning, just seeing how I'm feeling or based on time. Tuesday's upper, still starting with power, so maybe like a push press, and then into like your traditional pressing, accessory work, that kind of thing. Wednesday's a twist day, so very similar to you.
Awesome.
It's
So
usually,
few people have that in. Good job, man. Nice
dude,
one.
I love mixing in twisting work, side to side work. So I'll combine it with a pull. So if I'm deadlifting, so I might be deadlift, and I'll superset with some sort of like either lateral jump or like a windmill or something like that.
Cool, nice.
Rotational deadlift. Like I just love that kind of work. Thursday's rest day. Friday's back to lower, so power and lower again. Maybe I'll snatch.
Yeah.
And then Saturday is like a long aerobic day mixed with upper afterwards. So I'll go long run or a long row or something like that.
That's cool.
That's usually the structure I like to follow.
So then how do you keep track of your intensity and then therefore your recovery required? Because this, I think people could do with some help on, where it's like twist movements are really complicated to consider in your training plan if you've not done much of them, the impact they have and the requirement for recovery. So how do you structure that?
Yeah, so the way I like to do it is I try to, and this is where it gets a little challenging to like explain to people if you don't have like a training background, but I just try to think about, okay, what twisting movement is going to supplement my lifting, but also like not take away from it in the moment, right? So like deadlifting is it's very brace intensive. So I find that if I'm supplementing with windmills, like I'm getting a good duo there that's not too intense, but is also very supplemental. And I keep deadlifts a little bit lighter, and I'm getting a lot out of it. But that's kind of how my mindset is like what's gonna aid this, but not take away from it at the same time. And how I modulate intensity is pretty subjective. It's like, how do I feel today? like that kind of thing. I don't know if you have a protocol that you use with your clients, but mine's like, if I feel good, I'm going after it. If I don't, I'm going to do something, but I'm going to keep it lighter. And to your point, it's like just doing something and being consistent is better than doing nothing. Like you'll once you recover, you'll get the benefits out of it from the training. It's like that relative intensity thing. Like maybe your 100% one day is amazing, and your 100% another day is like really your 70%, but you're still doing it, you know?
Yeah, right. And I think I don't know if you ever coach athletes. I've coached a few, but there's such a minute percentage of the population that unless you are that elite athlete, there's no timeline for your strength development. You're better off erring on the side of caution and being consistent but lower intensity than going slightly too high and hurting something and then losing consistency. So as a general rule, it's like, pay attention to your body. Have a really good understanding of where you're at. Don't coddle the experience. Don't think, oh, I'm tired, and go light. Get into, like, you should be pushing. But if genuinely you feel like I need to pull back here, there's nothing wrong with pulling back.
Yep.
Focus on intensity first and reduce that intensity and get the reps in, get the time spent, because even just touching a lightweight, you're probably increasing your skill. You're getting that cardiovascular benefit. You're getting the consistency, habit building benefit. So there's
my so there's a coach that I never worked with, but he was a part of the group that I was with. So I worked with a group called Training Think Tank for a while. But he was a coach. His name's Kyle Ruth. I actually just did a podcast with him. He, 39 as well, just PR'd his clean at 380.
Oh, damn.
380 at 39. And
wow.
I was blown away, but it was to your point where it's like, you don't have to rush your strength. Like you don't have to rush getting to a number.
Yeah.
If you want to and whatever, but you really don't have to. You just need to be consistent, take care of yourself, stay healthy, focus on the fundamentals. And you never know, at 39, you could go in there and PR and be like, wow, I'm still getting better and I'm healthy and I feel good. This is awesome. So like I found that to be super encouraging.
Yeah, and to that point, like if the only reason why I mentioned this because I was having this conversation with my first client this morning. He's 50, and he was like, "Yeah, I am stronger, but I'm never going to be as strong as blah blah blah." And I said, the thing is, your relative strength compared to your cohort is greater than it ever has been, because more 50-year-olds have fallen off than 20-year-olds. So you're 50 now, fine, maybe you could have been stronger if you were more dedicated when you were younger and whatever. That's not who you were, though. This is who you are. And if you're training in your 50s and you hit your PR when you're 39, like the coach you mentioned, well, I feel as a 39-year-old that I've never been this strong and this capable and this skilled and all the rest of it. Compared to my relative cohort, like, I'm still that much stronger, that much better, that much, whatever. If that is the way you're motivated, it doesn't really do much to my mindset.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I say only, but I'm 32 now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've noticed a lot of even my friends are just, they're falling off. Like
Because it's hard to stay consistent with kids and businesses and family, and you've got to look after your marriage, and you've got to look after the house you're renovating, and whatever. Life happens, and it's hard. So you've got to find out. It's why I mentioned quick steal, because if you set your penthouse and you set your basement, it's not, well, if I missed the chance to do my 1 hour workout, then I'm not going to train today. No, do like 10 deadlifts, 10 push-ups, 10 times. It's going to take you 10 minutes and you're going to have done 100 deadlifts and 100 push-ups. And that's better than nothing, because if you did just that every single day, then by the end of a week, you've done 700 deadlifts and 700 push-ups. And that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I love that. That's very similar to, so having two workouts, I heard this as well. Someone said, have two workout times. Like give yourself, the optimal time, like whether it's a morning or whatever. And if you miss it, have another one scheduled in case you need to fall into it.
100%.
And that way you give yourself 14 opportunities per week if you're working out 7 days a week rather than only 7. It's like, okay, that's really good.
I do the same thing nutritionally with my client. We set our penthouse, we set our basement. What's the plan for your snack? Oh, well, I'll get a break in the office and I can go down to Pret and I can buy that chicken salad and I'll have the chicken salad with the water. Okay, penthouse. What's the basement? If you can't get out the office, what then? Have the protein bar in your bag. Have the protein shake that all you need to do is chuck water in. Have a thing of nuts or have some biltong or some jerky or whatever. Yeah. But have the penthouse option and the basement option, and you're never going to have to opt for the lazy Snickers bar because you're hungry and haven't made a plan. Have a plan for the best outcome and have a plan for the other one, and you'll manage.
Man,
it's what I've tried to do with my platform, is give everyone the Razor, which is effectively a 6-day-a-week, really tough program, but then also Quick Steal, which is 10, 20-minute workouts where, shit, I've run out of time to do the hour-long pressing workout. I'll do this 10-minute or 20-minute EMOM and I'll feel awesome at the end of it. And I can still put my head on the pillow at the end of the night thinking I got after today and I managed.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I love that because that is so practical. That's a very practical thing for people to take away and apply to their life, like today. Like come up with plan A, plan B. There you go. Now you are way more optimized to see success. That's awesome. Also, those names are really cool. Occam's Razor and Quick Steal. Those are sick names. That's really cool.
Yeah, the thought was like, I released Quick Steal over Christmas and it was like, if you need to steal time away from the family and grab a piece of steel, I got it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Quick Steal.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. Wow, very creative. Dang. Almost like you ChatGPT'd it.
Yeah, I didn't though. I promise.
No.
I used my own brain. For once.
I know. That's what's so funny. Now people are just using ChatGPT for everything. You're like, come up with blah 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 whatever. I've tried it with workouts. I'm like, let's just see what it can come up with. And I don't know if you've tried it, but I wasn't a fan. I was like, man, it's just not quite there
broad.
yet. It's too broad.
Although what I have said to like people that are my friends or my brothers who are like, oh, can you write me a workout? And I say no, because I'm A, too busy, and B, I'll spend way too long writing the perfect workout that they'll never do. So I'm like, go ask ChatGPT to write you a workout, but before it does, ask you 10 high-value questions that will make the workout better for your outcomes. When you do that, not once, but twice, you get a really decent program, but you have to put the time in. So if you go, give me a workout, a 5-day-a-week workout, where workouts last 45 minutes long with just kettlebells, go. It's going to give you something that you look at and you're like, this is basic. This is really, Like, this is really pretty basic. But if you say, please take a look at my social media. My name's Kyle, and I train in this way. I love these implements. I've got a background with this. My main numbers are this. These are my time outcomes. I need a plan A and a plan B for both days. Please ask me 10 questions. When I've given you the answer, please ask me 10 more. At the end of 15 minutes of talking to ChatGPT, you'll have a pretty decent program. And I think the space for coaches is going to be not in programs, because I think with that kind of layout, you can have a fairly decent program. It's going to come in coaching, in not in writing a program, but in being really good at picking up on technique, on energy leaks, on having the ideal cue to land for that person to adapt their technique in a moment in a way that a machine just can't, and in community and in feedback. And I think the community element is a big one, because that's what so many people feel like. If I just had support, I could be consistent. Yeah. If I just knew I wasn't going to hurt myself, I would do the thing. And that's where I think a good coach and a good community come into it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, also, sorry if you can hear the rooster. He loves to, I don't know if you can or not, but he loves to go off in the middle of the podcast. It's hilarious.
Awesome. Okay.
No, that's, there he goes.
There you go. I've got him. That's cool.
That's really cool. I actually did not realize that with ChatGPT. That's a very good prompt.
Yeah.
Again, something very practical for people if you want to try that.
Yeah.
I love that. I might try that today and just see what it says.
I said it to my wife the other day. Don't tell ChatGPT what you want. Ask it to ask you the best questions for the outcome you're hoping to get.
And how did you come up with that?
I think I'm a genius.
Dude, well, it honestly ties into you being willing to ask questions when you were younger. And so maybe it just made sense. You're like, well, I asked questions to figure things out. Maybe it should ask me questions to figure things out.
Yeah, I mean, because I did what you did a bunch of times, and I was like, these programs are shit. Let's see if, I don't think it knows what I'm expecting. And if I at least give it an access to my expectations, then it might give me something closer to my expectations.
No, that honestly is genius.
Totally joking, by the way, but yeah.
Okay, so we're getting closer now. I want to be respectful of your time, but I do want to ask you this about your social media and growing your business.
Oh yeah.
What has that journey been like? You know, like when you first got into it, what was your expectation? What was your goal? And maybe kind of where has it led you over these years? I mean, how long have you been doing social media?
With a purpose since COVID, but I've been doing it for much longer. I've been, like, if you scroll to the bottom of my Instagram, you'd find pictures of me in a suit in Russia, because I had work that I was doing in Russia and I took pictures in Red Square. So I had an Instagram when I had no message, nothing to share other than for my family and friends to see the picture I'd just taken. Right.
Right. But since COVID, you've been attacking it with like business purposes. Yeah,
and even before business purposes, like I started from COVID kind of thinking, I need an outlet for creativity in my day. And I could play a bit more, I should play a bit more guitar, I should draw more, but I've always enjoyed the process of being the director, setting up your camera angles, setting up your lighting, doing the edits that tell a story without there needing to be like a scripted narrative, because in fitness videos, at least some, not all for sure, but some of my videos, I try and show like a story arc, but I'm not in front of you telling you a story. So the story arc might be a missed lift, or a lift I got, or a struggle, or whatever. And I try and do that. So it's only because I enjoy the process of creativity that it's a bit of an outlet for me to be creative, that I got into it, and like everything we've just mentioned, was consistent with it. And then it was about trying to define, like, what am I actually trying to bring? What value am I adding to Instagram and all the people who are consumers of content there? And I thought, like, I don't know many things. Don't ask me about world economics. Don't ask me about politics. But I know my industry, and I know what I do physically. And I love what I do physically, and I'm a geek for it. I love, like getting into the geeky minutia of understanding anatomy or of hormone balances or of nutrition or of shifting your grip just slightly, how it can change things. Like to your point in ollie lifts and barbells, I went down this rabbit hole with Dan John ages ago, trying to understand who needs to hold the lockout here versus here. Right? Really small, but that is the difference between hitting a lift and not hitting a lift for loads of people. So like, I care about that stuff. And it's why I wanted to bring like more of an educational slant to the non-conventional lifting space of kettlebell sandbags and clubs and stuff. I by no means call myself an expert in sandbags and clubs, and I'm just a student in all of it, kettlebells included. I just think like I've probably just put in more hours than most people with kettlebells. Right. So my touch points of data are greater than theirs, and I've been able to glean more information as a result. But if I can bring something that's gonna shift one person a step back from injury and have an impact on one person, then this video is worthwhile, because that's what I'm doing in the gym anyway. Like going up to someone and saying, you know, let's try this so you don't get hurt or whatever. And if I can record that and put that out, initially just put it out, not in a compelling way, not in a considered editing way, no lighting, no whatever, just put it out there. And as my social media has steadily grown, I've enjoyed the process of feeling like I need to control my television channel with tighter constraints over the product. So I want, if my Instagram channel is like a television channel that people can turn on or off, there's a lot of kettlebell like influencers or content producers. Oh yeah. Why would someone watch me versus all the guys I watch and love their content and love their flows and creativity and juggling and complexes and how heavy they lift? And I can't do that stuff. Right. I'm not the best juggler in the world. I'm not the best flow guy in the world. I can't press the most in the world. I'm not the biggest, not the leanest, I'm not anything. But I reckon I can be the best version of a coach that I can be. Not the best coach. And if I can be the best version of a coach that I can be, that's gonna land with a certain number of people. Yep. And so many people are afraid of the kettlebell. And I thought, like, the impact I've got to have in my world, my life, is that I love health and fitness. And if I can make someone healthier, fitter, carry less body fat, improve their mental health as a result of those things, there's a ripple effect to doing that. And if the kettlebell is the linchpin for me in the way they do that, and I can demystify the like, oh, kettlebells are bad for your back. Kettlebells will tear your shoulders. I'm like, well, I don't know if you know this, but crossing the road with your eyes closed can get you run over. Yeah. Right? So like, it's just about how you come to the thing. Mm-hmm. And if I can just put out a message that resonates with one person, then great. And it never was about growth. And then I hit like a couple videos that did okay. And okay for me was like 30,000 views. I was like, whoa, shit, 30,000 people have seen that. And then I think it was 2 years ago. This was the most mind-blowing moment of my life. I was sitting down watching some of the UFC, because I'm a big fan of, that's the only sport I really watch is MMA, UFC. So I was sitting down one Sunday morning watching the UFC, answering my comments. Then I see, no, Joe Rogan has liked one of my videos. I was like, wait a second. So I screenshot it in case it was a fake or something and sent it to my brothers on our group WhatsApp chat. I was like, oh my God. And then I put my phone away. I was like, all right, I can't look at that anymore. That's way too crazy a thing to have happened. I'm just going to keep watching the fights. Watch the fights, get on with my day, get back to my phone at about 5 o'clock in the evening, and I'm answering more comments. And I see that he's gone to like deep videos, liked a bunch more, and commented directly to me. I was like, fucking hell, you know, like, there's no one to high five. I should be high fiving rooms full of people right now, but there's no one to high five. So he started following me off the back of that. And that for me was just like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, because if it's resonating all the way up to that person, that's pretty cool. And if that's the biggest accolade I ever have, that's pretty cool. And I'm happy with that. And the whole sort of business side of it, I've only really engaged in the last couple years, like putting a really concise program out that I really stand behind. Not because I'm selling something, but because I'm doing it. Like you asked me, what program do I? 8 months I've been doing the Razor because my progress has never stopped.
Yeah.
So I was on that program for 6 months before I released it because I wanted to know it was great and know it worked
Yeah.
and kind of work out the kinks of it and all that sort of stuff. And then put together something that's compelling enough that it's great to be able to earn from it because it frees up a little bit of my time to be able to double down on the work that I do there. But it's not like the people I see in person. That's the core of my business, and
Yeah.
Instagram's a creative outlet, really. But I've obsessed over it.
Yeah. Well, that was my next question was, has it become, because like you have a school community, correct?
Say again?
You have a school community, right?
Yeah, that's where the Razor is now. It's on
Y-
school. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you found success? This is me honestly asking for myself because I'm running a business as well. Have you found success with running the school community? Like has it turned into a potential like full-time income from that?
It's nowhere near full time for me yet.
Okay.
It's around about 1/10 to 1/12 of the income that I have from my one-to-one business.
Gotcha.
So it's great. It's wonderful that it brings me a reliable income every single month. But my goal was never to make it £1,000 entry and then have 12 people in it and replace my income in some way so that I could get it to like maybe there'll be 50 people in it and I can earn 50 grand a month. I want to help as many people as I can,
Yeah.
really and genuinely. And the struggle for me has been trying to place a monetary amount on it that I feel is not excluding people from the program, but also not devaluing the amount of work that I've put into it.
Yeah.
Because I really care and I've really put a lot of work into it, and I continue to because I talk to the people in the groups. I do a live call every single Wednesday. We do video submissions for improved form reviews. There's a lot that goes on in there. And I mean, most people around me tell me that I still massively undercharge for the amount of time that I spend on it. But if I can have hundreds of people in there and know that I'm having that kind of an impact, the sort of emotional reward, the emotional payoff will be so much greater
Yeah.
than knowing that I'm helping 10 people for £10,000 per person, but I've squeezed them for 10,000. Like that's, so it's great. It is an income.
Yeah.
It's not designed to replace my one-to-one business, at least at the moment,
Right.
because I really like being a coach. I love working one-to-one with someone. And a lot of my clients come to me because they're on a surgical wait list and they're like, you were the last person, someone had recommended you as like an injury guy. So I'm supposed to get neck surgery in 6 weeks. And I'm like, okay, let's see if we can encroach on that discomfort positively over the next 6 weeks. And if at week 4, we've made a 5% improvement on your experience of pain or 10% improvement, just delay the surgery. Don't cancel it. I'm not a doctor. Don't cancel it. Just delay it.
Yeah.
And no one's ever gone to surgery, basically.
Oh
So
wow.
like those are the people that I love working with.
Man,
And
that's
then the online persona I have is like all kettlebells, but in reality, in real life, I'm bodybuilding and barbells and martial arts and kettlebells, and I'm a bit of an injury person, and like that's kind of who I end up working with. So the school community has been great. It's a lot of work, but it's great fun,
yeah.
and I really hope to be able to build it to include more. So the next program I'm going to be writing will be specific for grapplers.
Very
So
cool.
jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo, Muay Thai. There's a lot of grappling in Muay Thai. So it will be specific for the kind of isometric grinding strength and tension that you need as a grappler.
Yep.
Um, and I want to pull communities together and have that be there. And it's been a new thing in my life. It's pretty new to me, so it's exciting. I get
No,
to interact with people all around the world. It's really
that's
cool.
so cool, man. Yeah. Yeah, I was
You've
just
got a big social media too, though.
it's definitely grown. I hit so similar to you where you had an experience with like where Joe Rogan liked it. Mine was similar just in a different way where I just had a video go viral and like
Oh yeah.
that's what, catapulted my followers.
What
Because
was
I
the
was because
video?
I was posting like 3 times a day for like 5 months, just like
Wow.
every day, post,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
finally one one went viral, and I think because I had a lot of content there, it was like, okay, this guy is actually worth following. There's some value here, so it ended up, blowing it up. But now, very similar to you, I'm trying to niche down, right, and really like tighten it up of like it's a select person, a select avatar. It's really trying to gear the content toward that, which is a whole
Right.
nother just like ball of wax. Like it's so much with the social media thing and marketing and selling and more than
You
I ever
have to
realized.
be like you have to be a professional in multiple industries.
Yes.
Like I have to understand how do I script something without words? How do I create a hook in the first zero point 0.7 seconds and then a payoff at around 3 seconds, and then the rest of the narrative, if I keep them to 3 seconds with the hook at zero point 0.7 seconds, and then on YouTube my payoff can come later, my hook can come later because you're already bought into a longer form.
Mm-hmm.
But YouTube is very condensed, and I've obsessed over it. I have really obsessed over it, and for a long time, my wife was like, "I've had enough of hearing this stuff. I don't care about
Yeah.
Instagram. It's so like not real world. I just don't care. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear you talking about it. You've wasted so many hours doing this with no money coming in. So when are you going to stop doing this and wasting your time and taking time away from the family to do this stuff? And there's no payoff." And now she's got a really big Instagram. So she's a psychotherapist, and I said to her, like, your tone, your message, your communication strengths, you should put a message out there. Her whole thing is like, how can I save more children from an upbringing where I could have a positive impact? So I'm like,
Wow.
why the fuck wouldn't you have a greater reach? Have a greater reach.
Yeah.
Even if, like I said, help one person. Don't try and have a big Instagram. Help one person that you've never met. And all of a sudden, she's got like 75,000 followers on her Instagram. And
That's
like,
awesome.
so
Wow.
now all of a sudden we can have a conversation where she's like, okay, so the hook has to come in here. And blah, 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 blah.
The tables have turned.
Yeah, but it's, you do kind of, unless you hit it lucky. I also felt like I'm not a freak in any way. I'm not like super shredded or super jacked, or I don't have any sort of thing that draws people's eyeballs because I have some freakish element to my strength or image or whatever. So I've just got to be consistent. I've got to put a good message out there. I've got to speak to a smaller niche and be more direct in the way that I speak to that niche. I've got to really think about the value of the production, of the kind of hook that I have. Is it a hook for the sake of a hook? Like right now, I've got a video that's in my head that I'm not gonna. I've had too many people tell me not to put it out because it's not my style. But like, it's a funny video, and I know that it would draw eyeballs, but it's not kind. And I try my best to be kind all the time, and it's just not a kind video. Um, like so, yeah, it's all these things that go through your head all the time when you're trying to build social media.
No, that's great, man. Well, let me say this to you to encourage you, man. I think you do have a hook. Like you look great. Like I've seen you with your shirt off in your videos. Like you look great, dude. Like when it
Thanks.
pops up on someone's feed, they're gonna be like, all right, this dude knows what he's talking about. Like he's lifting, he's strong, he's shredded. Like he's doing something right. So
Right, I
for
appreciate it.
sure, like it's there's a lot of value there. So just to give you some encouragement, man. That's
I appreciate it. See, I never do these sort of comment response videos, but someone just a week ago posted on one of my videos all this fancy stuff to not be jacked, and I really was tempted to do like like a whole video response thing and like clean and jerking my 56 and be like, I'm not okay, all right. you know. But
dude, I've
yeah,
I, I've had people say that on mine. Like I've had two polar extremes. Like one, like on the video I went viral, they were like, his physique's not even that great. Why would I listen to this guy? And then, but other people chimed in. They were like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, he has great
right.
physique. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to feel about this. And then
So
another one was like,
what was your viral video? What were the
dude, it
numbers
was
and what was the video about?
it was actually, dude, I made it in like 30 seconds and I like
Of course,
slapped
it's
it
always the
together
way.
and it
It's
blew
always
up.
the
It
way.
was,
Yeah.
it said, it was like POV, like point of view. how you used to do core in your 20s, and it was like me doing V-ups versus until you figured out what actually works. And
Right.
the point of it was like core is so much more than just like crunches and sit-ups. And so the video was like me doing rotational deadlifts, some windmills, some carries, just different things. Some
Yeah, yeah.
standing marches with the kettlebell beside you, just like different core work.
Right, right.
And dude, it just like it blew up. Like every time I refreshed my feed, it was like 100 new followers, 100 new followers,
So
comments,
what were
comments,
the numbers
comments.
that ended up doing? How many views did it end up getting?
5 million something. Like it went, I mean, it went crazy. And then a second one went viral. I have it pinned at the top of my page. It was like a voiceover that I actually stole from someone else's Instagram. And it was like, I want to be very clear about something. I am not training to be jacked. I'm training to
Oh,
beat
yeah,
my
yeah,
kid.
yeah, yeah.
And for whatever reason, that video went viral. I was like, okay,
Nice.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but gosh, I forget what I was saying before that. I had a second person comment, and they were like, "Yeah, good physique. Hope he's natural." I was like, "Great, here come the steroid allegations." But I was like,
Yeah.
honestly, I'll take it as a
Thank you.
compliment because I'm
Yeah,
natural.
thanks.
So thank
Right.
you. I didn't
That was the
even.
number one thing for me in when I was in commercial gyms and bodybuilding and that sort of stuff. I always had people coming up to me being like, I had one, I'll give you the most extreme one. Someone came up to me across the gym, walked his way across the gym just to come up to me and go, so I know you're on gear because you're bloated and you've got lots of spots and I've seen you bigger than you are right now. I'm like, I don't know your name, dude.
What in the
And
world?
I'm not on anything, but thanks for insulting me and calling me a fat spotty bloke. So fucking thanks, dude. You're like, what the hell is that? That was a
Wow.
real life comment. I didn't introduce in any way or invite in any way. Like,
Yeah, that's just like understanding how to interact with people 101. Like you don't do that. Even if you have
right,
that thought, you don't do that. Like
right,
meet the person, have a conversation. Then if you want to ask them down the road when it's appropriate, maybe. But that's crazy.
right.
Like
Exactly. It's
just
crazy.
that's crazy. I would have been
Yeah,
like,
totally.
dude, get out of here.
Right. Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
so yeah, no, look, I mean, this has been a really great move for me, having gone like from conventional gyms. Aside from just the time suck that commuting to and from a gym can be, training from home brought to bring us full circle, I guess, brought exercise and fitness into our home and showed it in a uh, in like a very accessible way to my now two kids. At the time, my son on his own, he's 5.5 and my daughter's 1.5, so there's a fair age gap. But he's and now he sees me. He'll stand in the house and he can look through the garden and see me here. And when I see him run in from school, I'll often be like, come, say hello. And he comes in, he goes, oh, it's Dad's angry music, because I listen to heavy metal and stuff like that. So, I listen to metal, and he comes in here and he'll do he goes, can I have the slant board? So he grabs a slant board, does a couple squats. He's got his own kettlebell, which is down here. So all my heavy kettlebells are down here, but his is also down here so he can reach it. And he
oh,
got sent this. A company sent him a 4 kilo kettlebell. The
that's
first thing he did was went like this and went, it's a bit light, Dad. It's like, all right, chill out, dude.
you're like, that's my
So,
boy.
yeah, exactly. But the other day, my wife finished a run. She came back here and did some dumbbell work, and he came running back. It was on a weekend, and I saw him grab the slant board, do 10 squats, 5 push-ups, turn the dumbbells into 2.5 kilo dumbbells and clean and press them, grab his kettlebell and do hand-to-hand swings. He did 2 rounds of that workout and then came back into the house and was like, Dad, can we do a puzzle? I'm like, yeah, sure, dude. But like, it's just normal for him to want to move.
Wow.
And like, mum's exercising and lifting weights, dad's exercising. No one's saying, son, have you done your push-ups today? It's totally not. So I love that now training in this way has made it part of our family culture. That like, be academic, be a ballet dancer, be a painter, be a professor. I don't care, but move your body. Find some way that brings you joy and move your body.
Yeah. Dude, I couldn't have done a better ending to a podcast. That was beautiful. Seriously. That's agreed 100%. Dude, again, thank you for your time. Really, thank you for chatting.
Of
I know
course, it's
you're
been an
busy.
absolute pleasure.
Yeah, dude. If I would love to
I've done
do,
my own deep dive on your page, and I love the stuff you put out. I love the environment you train in; it's great, and fantastic physique as well. Not to sort of, bromance it too hard right now, but fantastic physique as well. So you put out great stuff. Where in the States are you based again?
so I'm in Georgia, just north of Atlanta.
Do you know what's crazy? we were just in Georgia, so with my daughter. We were in a town called Rome.
Yeah, so I know where it is. I've never been there.
Okay, small town, but like, damn it, what a shame. I could have paid you a visit when we were there, and we could have done this in person.
Well,
Uh,
dude, if you ever are here in Georgia, and if I ever go back to London, because I've been to London before,
nice,
we got to get up and do some training. We got to do something, put some
100%,
content together, train hard, whatever.
100%.
And I'd love to bring you back on, in the future to talk about fatherhood, because
Sure.
you're a dad,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's a whole nother ball of wax, and like being a
yeah.
role model and growing as a person, the whole thing. And I'm sure you have a uh, ton of things you could share with people, and I'd love to bring you on for that if you'd be
Oh, for
willing.
sure. Yeah. That would be an honor, man. That'd be great.
Cool. Well, dude, enjoy the rest of your day. Um, I'm about to go get a workout in. This is
Thank.
great. Let's stay connected. Where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out?
So on social media, I'm TheKB6ix. It's the letter K, letter B, the number 6, and then IX because somebody else had the handle. But that's me on Instagram. I should come up pretty quickly if you search me on Instagram. I am on YouTube as well. It's a small account, and I'm doing my best to grow it now, but trying to dedicate some time there. And then I have a school community as well, like we've mentioned, where all of my program. I'm never going to put out a program again unless platforms dissolve or whatever. But all my programs I ever release again are going to go to school. So the people who are on it now are doing the Razor and Quick Steel, and are doing nutrition. Like I've got nutrition modules and supplementation and interviews with people and all that sort of stuff. And all new programs will go there as well. So there's the school community, but mainly on Instagram. Thanks a lot for having me on, man. I really
No,
appreciate
that's
it.
really cool. Yeah, and I'll put a link in the description to your Instagram page if anybody wants to reach out and shoot you a
Thanks a
message.
lot.
So,
Nice.
all right, dude. Enjoy the rest of your day, you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, love you guys. Keep moving forward as always. Glenn, until next time, man.
Cheers, man. Bye bye.
Boom.